Well, artificial intelligence is probably the most exciting technology development in the past century because it is really the new electricity. Artificial intelligence is an omni-use technology that can be applied to almost any domain to create additional value, taking it as arbitrary input, lots of data, and turn it into superhuman capabilities in specific domains. IoT is also very interesting, especially in the context of artificial intelligence. IoT was a buzzword 5 or 7 years ago, but it really didn't pan out at the time because we as humans don't want all of these devices that we have to track and watch the data. However, IoT as smart sensors connected online in the cloud towards an AI that can interpret the content from IoT. So let's say we put sensors and IoT all over a subway rail, and it detects anomaly using artificial intelligence that is taking sensor data and determining when the rail may fail. So in the context of artificial intelligence, IoT may truly blossom, taking all kinds of data from all sorts of sensors and feeding them to a central brain where artificial intelligence can make smart decisions and predictions, and including predictions of anomaly and estimations and improvements and optimization. So together, they're very powerful. If we just look at artificial intelligence, the rate of disruption will start from the industries with the most data and where the data can be connected to real business results. So internet was the first one that's already happened. Financial industry is the one that's happening right now, but we haven't finished it yet. And beyond that, I think healthcare, manufacturing, retail, education, public services are some of the ones we'll see next. And also artificial intelligence through IoT will be able to collect data from cameras, microphones, sensors that bring in things like humidity, temperature, 3D reconstruction, and move into areas like agriculture, where lots of sensors, IoT plus AI, can make autonomous agriculture possible. And then after that, it can move into transportation. If you look at a autonomous vehicle, it has a lot of IoT on it, and the road is full of IoT talking to the autonomous vehicle, especially in a smart city. And that, I think, is the ultimate combination with the smart city, IoT embedded in the road, on buildings, in cars, everywhere, talking to each other to ensure that autonomous vehicles are efficient, takes us where we want to go. So transportation is kind of the grand challenge. Not all that soon, but when it happens, it will completely change the way we think about cities and transportation. I think the pandemic accelerated the speed of everything going online. For example, healthcare, telemedicine, education, working remotely, that has been accelerated throughout the world. And as digital work process starts to happen, we have basically data for all of the workloads for every company. And when you have data, you have the ability to automate. For example, when your customer service is working through Zoom to talk to customers, then perhaps that can be automated with a virtual agent. Before, when it may be more difficult. And also, we can imagine virtual teachers and also workloads being replaced using RPA technologies, robotic process automation, to replace people in environments such as back office processing and things like that. Additionally, the pandemic is also making us careful about social distancing, and the use of robotics is now becoming more and more pervasive, especially in China. The use of robotics in manufacturing to keep the workers farther apart, in warehouse for picking things, for shipments. It's being used in many restaurants as little trays that move themselves instead of the waiters and waitresses. And in apartment buildings where I live, nothing's delivered by humans. They're all delivered by robots. So the pandemic, while it's a terrible problem for humanity, has really accelerated digitization, moving online, artificial intelligence, robotics, and IoT, and I think brings us much closer to the future as a side effect. As with any technology investing area, in the early stages, I do think expertise is required because the investing professional doesn't have numbers to look at. There are no profits, no revenue, and the market analysis and the product market fit are arguably still hypothetical, and the technologies, if it sounds incredibly difficult, then the smart decisions cannot be made. So I think early stage investors, let's say Series A and before, should ideally be technically savvy so that they can judge the quality of the entrepreneur, the engineers, and the technologies. Now, beyond Series B, increasingly investing in AI companies or IoT companies are like any other companies because you can then judge based on the company's market position, user acceptance, technology differentiation, as well as growth and standard numbers like that to make a judgment. And at Sinovation, we are obviously very, very technically savvy. That is our differentiating factor. And the interesting thing we find is that our tech savviness definitely helps us in the early stage, as I mentioned earlier. But even in later stages, it's somewhat helpful because we're able to actually find companies that are in need of technology, and we can better judge which companies can benefit from AI infusion. With a healthcare company of this kind versus a manufacturing company of that kind, what technologies do we recommend to them so they can infuse themselves with AI and earn an additional multiplier in the investment? So we actually find technology is a helpful, additional, nice to have characteristic even for later stage investing, because we're not judging a company's technology, but judging the ability of a technology to help improve a company's process and help it improve its bottom line and making a better investment for us. Yes, for a company to adopt AI, I think one of the first problems is, do you have enough data? Because while AI needs a lot of experts, it also needs data. Without data, the experts cannot program AI. The AI works because of massive amounts of data that's fed into a particular process to help improve optimization and decision making. So the first question I would ask is, do you have a large amount of data? The more the better. Secondly, is that data structured and accurately labeled so that it can learn? By labeling, I mean, if you have loans, you need to know which loans defaulted or they paid back. If you have, let's say, speech, you need to know what is being said in the speech in order to recognize the speech. So that labeling is very important. And lastly, that all of that labeled structured data in a large data warehouse needs to somehow be connected to a business result, so that when AI does the training, you need to tell it what to optimize. And the optimization of that thing, called the objective function, needs to be something that improves your business results. So let's say a credit card company might pick defaults credit card companies might pick fraudulent uses as a label, so to detect them. Loan company might pick defaults as something to avoid, so then they can optimize. I think these things are important. Also, I think the company's CEO needs to be determined. If they really want to embrace AI to result in better bottom line performance, then only then will the company produce the upside. But such commitment is not always easy, because sometimes you might be using AI to replace people, or you might change the workflow, or you might make one division in the company more important than another because the other's job may be partly done by AI. So the CEO needs to really be determined to make these changes because changes will make some people uneasy and unhappy. So that commitment is very important also.